How's it going, Eliminators? In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to easily test and diagnose what could possibly be a bad kill switch on pretty much any of your outdoor power equipment. So with that being said, let's get right into it. So if you guys will remember, I did an unboxing and assembly video on this Generac 2600 PSI pressure washer that we bought on Amazon Canada, and up until now it's been a great pressure washer and we really haven't had any issues with it. Now you guys can see that the recoil has been removed from this engine, and that's because it broke and we needed to replace it. We couldn't fix it, it couldn't be rebuilt, we just simply had to go out and purchase another recoil to put on there. And the recoil broke simply because we were just pulling this engine over more times than what would normally be necessary. And the reason we had to do that was because we had an intermittent kill switch. So what was happening is, even when the kill switch was in the run position, it was still grounding out the coil, preventing spark at the spark plug. Now, the way that I diagnosed a bad kill switch is by simply eliminating the kill switch altogether. They have this little plug here, so I unplugged that. And then, because the recoil was off and it was broken, I took a drill with a socket on the end of it. We turned this thing over and it fired right up. However, we could not shut it off with the kill switch, so we either had to plug the kill switch back in to ground the coil or put the choke on, and that ends up flooding out the engine to the point where it can't run anymore. And I just went ahead and plugged in the kill switch and it shut the engine right off. And like I said, unplugging your kill wire there, if you have a defective kill switch, is going to eliminate it from one of the possibilities. So if you unplug your kill wire and you still don't have spark, then it's not going to be your kill switch that's the issue. However, if you don't have spark when the kill switch is in the run position and you unplug your kill wire and you test for spark and you end up having spark, then you can go ahead and replace your kill switch. And that goes back to the video that I did on this lawn boy here. So we went ahead and completely restored this thing, got it all painted up, shined up. This thing runs awesome. So in that video, I had disconnected the coil kill wire. We had set the gap to as close as what we could get it. And unfortunately, we just didn't get spark. So I went out and bought a coil from Stens, installed that, and I will play a clip of this thing running. So you guys can hear in that video there, this thing sounds amazing. You know, there's nothing like the sound of a two-stroke. This thing sounds like a chopper, and I absolutely love it. We went ahead and did a new recoil pull cord on there, sharpened up the blade. Obviously, you guys can see this thing isn't as clean as it once was. Maybe I'll put a picture up on screen to show you what it looked like the day after we painted it. But we have been using this because, again, it is an awesome machine. As for the recoil, what ended up happening was this plastic little edge here that holds the rope into the recoil winding simply broke. So all of that plastic broke away, and then what would happen was the rope here would slide over this edge and then would get wrapped up inside of the cup that goes inside of the flywheel there. And basically this thing, you just would go to pull it and it just wouldn't pull it at all. We'd have to take this off and unwind the cord, and it was getting to be a hassle. So we went out and purchased a brand new recoil. I am, believe it or not, a Generac parts dealer. I didn't even know, but I do get these parts through Canada Power Technology here in Canada. So I have access to Generac parts, and like I said, I didn't know until I had to search for one of these parts, and they had them in stock. So in today's video, I'll just be showing you how to quickly bench test one of these kill switches, because, like I said, if you have that intermittent problem and you leave intermittent or defective switch on your machine, sometimes you're going to be trying to start your outdoor power equipment and it's just not going to start. Whereas if you take it to the bench and you check to see if the switch is working, you'll be able to know right away whether or not it's defective altogether or whether it has an intermittent issue like the one I have on this machine. So we're over here on the workbench now. I have my extension test leads with the alligator clips. Once again, my trusty Mastercraft multimeter, and I have a couple replacement kill switches here. And before I show you how to bench test one of these switches using a multimeter, I'll briefly explain how they work because it's very simple. So we have a kill switch that is commonly used on Honda and a lot of the clone Honda engines. And this switch works to ground your coil or not ground your coil, depending on which position the switch is in. And this is known as a two-position switch. So the first position is going to be I for on, and the second position is going to be O for off. Now, what I like to remember is O means off, However, O can also mean a closed circuit, so it's running in a loop. And to understand how this switch grounds the coil, we're just going to flip it over. On the back side of this switch here, you guys can see that there is a little brass piece sticking out, and that goes to the inner side of your engine's flywheel cover. And this little tab there is what connects to the chassis of your engine. So that's going to act as your ground base. And then this wire here is going to hook into a plug that runs all the way back to your coil. So when you flip the switch to the on position, it breaks the connection between your ground and your coil, so it does not ground your coil out. Thus, your coil makes spark. As soon as you move the switch to the O position or the off position, it makes a connection between the ground tab there and this wire here, and then that grounds out your coil, preventing spark at your spark plug, which thus shuts off your engine. So the first thing we're going to do, come down to our multimeter here, and we're going to turn the dial until we get into the continuity symbol right there. And continuity simply tests for a connection between two terminals. So you guys can see that I have the red and the black hooked up to my alligator clips here. So if I take the negative lead and I touch this to the red, you guys are going to see that there is in fact a connection. And depending on the connection, let me hold it firmly, you guys can see that it goes to 0, 0, 1. So there is a very good connection between those terminals, which there should be because there's absolutely nothing in the way of those wires. Now, depending on what issue you have with your kill switch, you could test it in either position. I'm going to test it in both just to show you guys what it should look like, because this is a good switch and I've already tested it. But the main thing you want to understand is that when your switch is in the off position, there should be a connection between this terminal and that terminal. And then when you turn your switch to the run position, or the little I position there should not be a connection between those 2 points. So the way that I'm going to test this is simply hook up my alligator clip here to that ground connection there, and then I'm going to take the other terminal here on the alligator clip and we're going to hook it up to that one. Now you guys are going to see that the switch is in the off position right now. So off position, 0, 0, 0. So that is a good connection. So the off position on this switch works perfectly fine. Now at this point, what you can do is go ahead and switch over to the run position, and you guys can see that we end up getting a 1 over here and we don't have that 0, 0, 0. We are not getting continuity between this ground terminal and that plug wire right there, which means this switch is working perfectly fine. So if your switch was in the run position, I for on, and you ended up having continuity there, that means that when you put your switch to the run position, you were grounding out your coil and you weren't getting spark. That means that your engine's simply not going to start. Now, similarly, you could have a defective switch in the reverse position. So if your switch was in the off position and you did not have any continuity, so it looked like that, then what's going to happen is you're running your piece of equipment and you go to shut your kill switch off and it won't shut off. And then that goes back to what I mentioned before about putting the choke on. So you're pretty much blocking off the air going into the engine and you're flooding out the engine. At that point, you can just go ahead and replace your switch, or simply check the wires to make sure that like a mouse didn't go in there and chew your wire. Well, that's going to wrap up today's video. Like I said, very quick and simple way to test those kill switches on pretty much any of your outdoor power equipment. Now, I did want to mention that next week we will be getting an upgraded concrete driveway. So not sure how that's going to affect videos for next week, but I do have some truck videos planned in the upcoming weeks ahead, so stay tuned for that. But I just wanted to mention that because the concrete guys said that we won't be able to drive any of our vehicles on the concrete driveway for approximately 30 days. So again, not sure how that's going to affect the small engine repair business, but I know that we will be shut down for at least 1 week. But with that being said, if you guys enjoyed the video, think about leaving a thumbs up. You know, it really helps me out. You can click here to subscribe and click over here to watch one of my previous videos. I upload every single week, so be sure to stop on by next week. Check channel out for new content. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.